Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Trosian, and this is RamView, the February 27th, 2026 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help. If you got some questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And click on that QR code. Check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Game Day in the Ram Cave. You want to help the show out? You want to stay connected during the football season? You want to get that fix? You want your hits? You want your scores? You want your energy? Be sure to check out Game Day in the Ram Cave, available on Amazon, softcover, and of course, in ebook format. All right, so a lot of stuff going on right now. It's mostly a lot of stuff going on, not a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm going to try to keep this show tight because I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of want to see Michigan, Illinois. It starts at 5 p.m. out here on our time. So that one is really interesting. And it's also a really hot day here in LA. It's 84 now. 84 in August is fantastic. 84 in February. Yeah, not cool. All right. So some NFL news. Salary cap was set at 301.2 rocks. Latest numbers centering for the Rams, because this always seems to be a moving target. The latest I saw is that leaves the Rams with 42 rocks this year. The expected to release of Darius Williams would probably kick that up to 50 rocks. Speaking of the Rams, did you see the Anthony Richardson stuff on Tuesday where the Colts gave him permission to seek a trade? And we right here, you and I, we talked about Anthony Richardson on Monday as possibly being a reclamation project. Maybe, just maybe, the Rams might be interested in either that or Will Levis. Bring one of these guys in, see if you can rehabilitate their stalled careers. Both of them are physical beasts these days. So hotter than expected here in Costa Rica these days. Isn't it always kind of hot down there in Costa Rica, USA? Expat? I just always have this image of anything getting closer to the equator is hot, humid, and miserable. I'm a guy that I want to migrate more north in my old age. Well, as my old age advances, I don't like the heat. I've lived in California my whole life. Now, I probably don't want 10 inches or 10 feet of snow. I probably wouldn't know how to handle that. I don't know how to drive in the ice and snow. But I would like some more seasons, and I'd like a little more spring weather and not the Del Scorcho we're giving. So just random stuffs here that we're kind of picking up from the combine going on. Now, the Rams have gotten some formal interviews in and some interactions with some of these guys. But before I get to that, did you guys check out Mekhi Lemon at the podium answering questions? He's asked who he tries to emulate or who he admires in the NFL. USC guy likes a USC guy named Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was very underrated coming out by all accounts now, as you look and see what his career has turned into. I love the answer from Mekhi Lemon, but did you see his demeanor? Yamahama, man. Now, maybe he was just trying to be cool, which I don't know why you have to try to be cool. If you played football at USC and you're projected to go in the first round, you're automatically implicitly implied to be cool, right? So I don't know what that was, that kind of moving around and everything. He's a kid, right? It goes back to the Puka thing a little bit. I don't want to make too much of it until you get arrested for a DUI, possession of a gun, domestic violence. Kid's a kid. You put up with it. But it did seem kind of weird. I don't know. It didn't feel comfortable. Maybe he was just nervous and trying to project some cool. USA expat, 6 months dry and 6 months of rain. But that's like that Pineapple Express rain, right? You get that rain that's all you can take a shower in, right? You can take a shower in. USA expat, starting to really like free agent corner from the Raiders. Stokes would make a nice compliment to signing a big name. Okay. What is the range for Stokes? Well, what's the market value for him? I'm going to be okay whatever the Rams do in terms of Jamel Dean, but the guy I'm leaning for more is Jalen Watson. That's the guy I'm leaning at, and I'd like to get Jalen Watson in here. But tell me a little bit more about Stokes in terms of what he would cost, and we'll figure that one out. Please, guys, hit like, subscribe, let us know you're there. I'm glad to interact with you. You know, one of the fun things about watching the combine is I have friends tell me, God, it's so boring. All they're doing is running. You know, but you had Charles Davis, Daniel Jeremiah, and Rich Eisen on NFL Network, and all they're doing is just chatting. And it's sports talk, right? It's pure sports talk. They're not necessarily talking about, you know, who their favorite star is, or going to the Grammys, or going to the MTV Awards, or man cave stuff, or where they're going to eat, all that ridiculousness you get on sports talk radio now. They're just talking sports. You know, one of my favorite experiences is to go, when it was affordable, it's not affordable anymore, was to go to a Dodger game by myself, sit inner blue level, inner reserve, sit loge, pay the money, sit by yourself, and just hear the people talk baseball around you. And if you're fortunate, you'll get people from Chicago or New York, and you don't even have to participate in the conversation. You're just hanging out. And that's what I feel like. I think that's what I get when I love to watch the combine, is I just love to hear them talk, and they talk about the needs of teams and everything. It's just really good stuff. So that's why I recommend the combine. The Rams have confirmed, 4 interviews now. This morning it was Josiah Trotter. We knew they were going to interview Ruben Bain from Miami. Mansour Delane popped up, and I didn't know that was going to happen. And then they interviewed the kid from Brennan Thompson, and then they had a conversation with Makai Lemon. Josiah Trotter was an interesting one, because I'm wondering if Sonny Styles is going to make teams rethink that off-ball linebacker business. Sonny Styles ran a 4.4 yesterday as an off-ball linebacker. And oh my goodness, that is just unbelievable. And they were actually flirting with conversation that he could be a guy that bounces back and forth from the box to the back, and just the flexibility he brings you. And again, we asked that question about 3 weeks ago. If Sonny Styles is there, would you make that move? And he's a football player. Okay, so you don't have to worry about him being a shorts and shirts warrior, right? This guy's a legitimate football player. And it was funny because I got back to my desk in time this afternoon to not only turn on the combine, but Styles' brother, Lorenzo Styles Jr., who's a safety at Ohio State, ran the most effortless 4.2 40 I have ever seen in my life. And I thought, oh, wow. You know, it's like, and these guys, again, they're football players. They're not just guys that how do you say? They're not just guys that are just really good workout guys. Because, you know, there are academies that train these guys to be really good at the combine. And so they're really good at all the 3-cone drills and everything, and the shuttles and everything, but they're not football players or high-end football players. And a lot of teams have been burned by that. But, you know, from the Styles family, given the father, Ohio State, there's a lot of traceable records there. And so with that said, hey, I see you there, Jimmy. I'll get there in a second. With that said, the Rams interviewed Josiah Trotter, linebacker. Now, I think he's related to Jeremiah Trotter, the former Eagle linebacker. I don't know. I could be wrong. You guys correct me. But he's out of Missouri, 6'2", 237. He's trending late second round. Now, depending on what the Rams do with their first 2 picks, number 13, number 29, if you saw Josiah Trotter there, who has some of those similarities, to it's Kroenke calling me, wanting to know what I think about the quarterbacks. Kroenke's always bugging me. But make the Rams rethink. They need a little more athleticism there at that linebacker spot. Now, we're all good with Landman. We're all good with Omar Spates, but we would agree that athletically it could be upgraded. Those linebackers aren't the reason the Rams didn't go to the Super Bowl. So Josiah Trotter was one guy they interviewed. Ruben Bain, the guy with the short arms that is slowly building a bigger and bigger chip on his shoulder. I don't think he's going to be around for the Rams to draft, but he's getting a lot of play right now, and he might drop a little bit. So someone to think about. And then Mansour Delane, who, when you look at all the corners in this draft, he generally grades out as the first one, as the best. Rams interviewed him out of LSU. And then the interesting one, besides Mekhi Lemon, and we've had our Mekhi Lemon talks, guy named Brennan Thompson out of Mississippi State. He's only 5'9", 170, but he's a blur. He runs 4.240, and he's just lightning. He could probably be a little bit better on his routes. He's trending 4th round right now. Someone to keep an eye on. He's not going to be a first-day pick for the Rams. We know that, but someone to keep an eye on. And as of right now, I look last year, he only returned 1 punt, and the Rams are looking for – if you're going to be 5'9", 170 with speed, I think the Rams need a punt returner. And so Thompson only returned 1 punt last year, but it was for 44 yards. All right, let me keep going there. Jimmy, I always go by myself to Dodger games. It's cheaper. It is cheaper. It is cheaper. Yeah, I used to, because my office, when I was working out of my office in Burbank, I always looked for those businessman specials. And that was those Thursday afternoon games that started at 1. So I would just take an extended lunch. And I just, hey, guys, I'm going to lunch. I'd go to the Dodger game just around the corner. And then I'd come back to my office. And I loved it. And I don't know how you felt, Jimmy. I don't really interact with people when I'm there. I just keep my mouth shut. I listen, right? I've done this at some minor league games. I did this in Indianapolis once. I was at Indianapolis AAA game for the Reds. I think the Reds own that franchise then. And I just sit there and I love to hear the people talk when they're talking sports. So, yeah. All right, let's see. USA Expat, $6 million for Stokes. That's workable for me if you think he's an upgrade from Kobe Durant, right? Because he would be the benchmark. Akilla Weatherspoon, we're done with. Darius Williams, age, unfortunately. But if you feel comfortable with Stokes at $6 million, he'd have to be an upgrade. At least the days of drafting Greg Robinson are over. There you go. Greg Robinson, man, Rams picking a tackle in the 2nd overall spot in the draft has not worked out well. That's, of course, Justin Smith and Greg Robinson. Yeah, Greg Robinson's making license plates now, I think, in the Texas Federal Pen. So I think that's what he's doing. You turned it off when Mina Kimes. I think you had it on ESPN. I had it on NFL Network. Yeah, I couldn't tolerate Mina Kimes doing analysis there. USA Expat, hoping the days of 5'9" speedsters are over for the Rams. They better be awful special, right? I think Casey Concepcion comes in at 5'11", which means he might be a legitimate 5'9". If they're being measured 5'9" now, they're likely more like 5'7". We've seen that before. Jimmy, last-minute tickets are the best priced. StubHub, is that where you go? StubHub for that? Anyway, so those are interesting. That's a linebacker spot. That's edge. We talked about edge, that the Rams might be in the market for another edge rusher given Byron Young's situation. Definitely in the market for a corner. They interviewed a corner, and they spoke to 2 receivers, Brennan Thompson and Mekhi Lemon. And, of course, if you saw Mekhi Lemon, whoa, that posture of his as he answered the question was really, I don't know, a little bit off-putting, but again, trying to keep our heads level here. He has been arrested for domestic violence. He hasn't had a DUI. He hasn't been picked up concealed carrying, illegally carrying a gun. So he's just being a kid. So we'll let it ride. And speaking of letting things ride, remember everyone's getting all worked up about Puka Nakua's offseason activities. Has not been arrested, no domestic violence, no DUIs, right? But here's the thing. We heard all that buzz about, oh, man, I'm really concerned about Puka Nakua, who's acting like a young man in his 20s, who's got a lot of scratch to play with. But you know what I haven't heard much about the last 2 days is I haven't heard much about the video of the workout showing him and Cooper Kupp working out this offseason. And maybe we should focus on those things too, is that the fact that Nakua, while he had a good time for a few weeks there, he's still working out here in February, getting ready for next season. All right, let's keep pressing on here. Let's see. Back to the corners. I saw the cost if the Rams decided to pick up Emmanuel Forbes' 5th-year option. He's only going into his 4th year, and this would be the time to pick up a 5th year if he was a player for you. I like Emmanuel Forbes. I view this last year for Emmanuel Forbes literally as his rookie year after escaping a disastrous situation in Washington, his first year and a half. He was drafted during the Ron Rivera meltdown. So he wasn't even Dan Quinn's guy. And so, he didn't play the whole second half of 2024. And he played this year. And I view this year as his rookie year. But with that said, I certainly wouldn't pick up the 5th year of his 5th year option. Now, could that cost the Rams if he blossoms and explodes? Yeah, that could cost the Rams, but they'll get this free year out of him. And then we'll just see how it plays, right? We'll just see how it plays. But I would not get worked up in extending him. All right, continuing on before we press into other places. What I want the Rams to do, draft a receiver at 13, absolutely. If Jimmy G walks, I want Stetson Bennett to be the backup quarterback, and you can take a Drew Aller or a Carson Beck who's fawning over Matthew Stafford these days, put them in the 5th round and develop them with Cliff Kingsbury. I want them to sign that corner. I want it to be Jalen Watson, but I'll settle for Stokes from Raiders as a secondary option. But definitely draft a corner in the top 100, sign a top-end guy that's already played in the league, and then I would draft another guy 5th, 6th, or 7th round just to see what you can get. Also, I'm always in the market for another toilet clogger. We saw what the Jets did yesterday. They traded Jermaine Johnson to the Titans and reunited him with Robert Saleh. And what did they get back? They got back T'Vondre Sweat from Tennessee. 6'4", 362 pounds. Yeah, I'd like a T'Vondre Sweat just to park him there as the immovable object on our offensive line. I'd also like to see the Rams draft a tackle in the 3rd round or later to develop. And I'm all in on a move for Max Crosby. And I'm all in on signing, first and foremost, Tyler Linderbaum. And I don't think we're there yet, like that's going to happen. All right. Let's get to a couple of other things here. Let's see. All right. You guys joined us here. Pablo, Bill from Philly, ESG, USA Expat. Let me just do this real quick. Just a reminder of Kistler Law. Get the compensation you deserve. They are the #1 sponsor of our show. They help me in my day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank, and I also write books, Game Day and the Ram Cave. That's why I'm always hawking them, because as pastor of a small church, I need to be bivocational, and that's why I get to do RamView and this. I appreciate your support with both our sponsor and purchasing my books. All right. Pablo Vasquez. Thank you, Pablo, for joining us. Rams need a corner and a linebacker. Yeah. Where do you place that? Would you, at number 13, Pablo, would you go Mansour Delane if he is at number 13? He's projected as the best corner in this draft right now. And my argument that I've been making the last couple of weeks is that I don't trust a corner that high in the 1st round, because you never know what you're going to get, right? You can get a star or you can get a dud, right? And that guy they draft, if they draft a corner at number 13, homeboy's got to be ready to rumble day 1. No learning curve. He's got to be ready to play. And so that's why I'm all in on Jalen Watson being signed. USA Expat has mentioned Stokes from Las Vegas. So where would you want that corner, Pablo? And I'm all in on a linebacker. If the Rams took a linebacker that was seriously athletic with that kind of size, I think one of the things we saw with Omar Speights was legs can get places, but we saw him bounce off a lot of tacklers, right? And off a lot of ball carriers. And I like Omar Speights, but he's an undrafted free agent, and you don't have a lot of pesos invested in him. You got great clicks out of an undrafted free agent, but we know this. You can get better at that position. And if they took a guy at 61 that was a linebacker, I'm right there with you. Bill, did they increase the cap to 300 mil? It was up to 22 mil, and it's 301 rocks, 301.2 rocks. So, Bill, the number right now with the Rams, because it is a moving target, we think is about 42 rocks they have to play with. If they put Darius Williams in the street and they save his money, that could get them into the 50 range. So Rams are in good shape. I don't think they have to shed anybody contract-wise like we did back in those 2022 and 2023 seasons. Let's see, ESG. I get worried when the national media starts pushing for Ty Simpson. I agree if this was a different age. We're in the McSnead era, so we got to trust. Could the Rams have done something foolish and taken him at 29? Absolutely. I hope not. Everyone's capable of a mistake. But would the Rams actually be suckered into taking him at 13? No, I don't think they are. I don't think they would. I just think he's coming across good in the interviews. And I'm pretty hard on Simpson because I didn't see those early games. I could go back and watch highlights, I know, but I did see those live games at the end of the season, and I didn't think he was very good. I'm not saying you couldn't draft him later on if he was there in the third round. Hey, take a swing, but I'm just not into him. Just not that into him. I think the Rams will be okay. USA expat, Watson, Stokes, and Forbes, and then a cornerback at 29 is my dream cornerback room. How about a corner at 61, and we get two weapons for Stafford at 13 and 29? We sign Linderbaum. Boom, right? And then you draft a Mekhi Lemon, and you get something else nice at 29, or you trade back. There you go. Bill, I would love the center from Baltimore. The Rams would have a 70s offensive line if they got him. Yeah. That to me, Linderbaum, I can't even describe how awesome that would be if they signed Linderbaum, right? And, we made that argument on Monday. It's like, kid, you're not going to play for a Super Bowl in Baltimore, especially when Lamar Jackson wants more than 74 rocks a year to play quarterback, and he's not that good throwing the ball, and his days of being a home run hitter are slipping away with his legs. So a lot of stuff there to think about. All right, cool. Let's get to a couple of other things before we're going to get to Jeremiah, Daniel Jeremiah's risers and fallers. I thought that one was interesting, but I wanted to knock out a couple things that I didn't talk about the other day that I would just love to hear your thoughts on. Ryan Poles had this comment. I think I dropped it in one of my columns. Ryan Poles had this comment here. Let's see. Rams drafting a corner in the first round. I hope you're watching this, Mr. Barker. You should be working from here. Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, said this about the Rooney Rule. I think it's strange. At the end of the day, you should want to develop your staff regardless of the color of their skin. I thought this was pretty interesting coming that, of course, Ryan Poles is African-American, and the Rooney Rule is starting to kind of not very well intended, but we know it's a cursory thing, right? Who was the one that came in? Who was the one that kept getting interviews that just to meet the Rooney Rule? Was it Deuce Staley, the former Saints running back, that for 3 years in a row he got interviewed for a head coaching job, and it was basically just to check the box, right? It's interesting that an African-American coach would say that. And then others have said it too. So just something I'd be curious to know. Drop your comments in the box there. All right, let's keep running. USA expat, Giants are going after Linderbaum too. Well, where would you want to go, man? If you're Linderbaum, right? I'd want to go to the place that can win now. Giants might be trending. Giants might be improved. Giants might win 8 games or 9 games next year. God bless them. And the Giants should want Tyler Linderbaum. But, I'm 4 or 5 years into the league. I'm in my mid-20s, going into my late 20s with my second contract. I think I'd want to go to the place that's going to go to the Super Bowl now, that has a chance now. Manny Correa. I did not look up the dude from Duke, Manny. Sorry. I told you I would, but I'll allow you to say hi to everybody here. A couple other things here, just as you're watching everything take place. There's all the commercials, the PSAs that are pushing through. I got to tell you guys right now, I know I'm going to sound really terrible. I'm over all the pushing for women's flag football. I don't care about the girls playing flag football. I'm glad I left local sports writing long before girls flag football came in. I don't want to cover it. I don't want to watch it. It's not interesting. Even if NFL players are playing, I don't want to watch flag football. I don't care if it's in the Olympics or not. I think it's stupid. And they keep pushing it for the women's empowerment thing because the NFL wants to pull in the women audience. Flag football is not football, all right? It's a little bit more like 7-on-7 on roids, right? So yeah, I'm sick of that. Also, the PSA that shows the little kids being said, told to repeat, I'm a champion, I'm a champion, I'm a champion. I think it sounds really good, but what really bothers me about that is sometimes you're not going to be a champion where someone hands you a trophy, but you could be a champion in how you live your life, right? And I think we can not wait for someone to say we're a champion, but if we have the discipline of a champion, because you learn about what these champions go through and how much hard work they put in, if you could just have the discipline of a champion, then I think you're a champion, right? Discipline in how you take care of yourself, how you live your life, how you take care of the people around you. But that business of pushing, I am a champion, I am a champion, I'm a champion. No, because you know what? You might not be. You might not be. Ernie Banks wasn't a champion. Was he a champion in how he lived his life? Yeah, but Ernie Banks wasn't a champion. And other guys as well, right? So yeah, I just feel like every time I'm watching NFL Network or I'm watching something, people are always preaching at us about all these virtue things. And I'll tell you, first and foremost, as a pastor, I really hate the Jesus gets us stuff, which is the stupidest question in the world. Of course, Jesus gets us. The bigger question is, do we get Jesus? There we go. I got it out of the way. Love to hear your thoughts on all that. Let's keep pressing on. Let's see. Rams met with Love, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. That's a good interview. I have no problem with that. I don't think there's a chance in snot that he's going to get drafted by the Rams, but we'll see. That would be huge. I can see the Rams taking Jeremiah Love at 13 if he's there, and then holding him ransom until someone else wants to pay a higher price for him, right? Boom. There you go. Manny Correa, check out Eric Hunter from Oregon State. Let me get to the kid from Duke. USA expat. After U.S. women's soccer team and then the WNBA, I am finished with women in pro sports. Exactly. 100%, Joe. There you go. Thank you, Manny, for agreeing with me. Yeah, I'm not really into it, right? I'm just not into women's sports. The individual sports, the tennis, absolutely, right? I could remember my early years of marriage when, get up on a Saturday morning and kind of just laying around the house before kids. And Steffi Graf, Gabriella Sabatini playing at the Open or maybe in Wimbledon or the French. And yeah, I'm into that individual stuff, right? I'm just not into the team sports because it's just not very good, right? It's just not very good. Thank you guys for sharing with me on that one. ESG, the worst thing about flag football was the pulling down of shorts trying to grab your flag. Well, there is a funny story with my guys. Some of my guys might remember this that are out there, is that when I was youth pastoring, I was about 28, 29. And what happened was we joined a flag football league. It was supposed to be a flag football league with a bunch of churches, but these churches probably were smarter than we were. They didn't. So we were the one church in a flag football league with a bunch of sports bars. And I remember this from my days playing flag football as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, is that everyone had a different view of what flag football is. Some people viewed it that all it is grabbing the flag. Some people viewed it that you wrapped up the guy and then you pulled the flag. And then others viewed it as knock the snot out of the quarterback and then grab his flag. And that was the third one. That's what happened to me. I got the snot beat out of me playing quarterback in my flag football league. Was my last foray onto the gridiron. In fact, I got so banged up, I tore up my shoulder and throwing the ball. My shoulder snapped throwing the ball. And I went to my doctor and got the most humbling thing that was ever said to me. He says, yeah, Joe, you wrecked it pretty good. If you were a real athlete, I'd recommend surgery, but you're not. So, yeah. So flag football, man, whatever. Those were the days. Yeah, I had a friend had his shorts ripped off. He ran down the field in his boxer briefs in one of those games. Yeah, I remember that. All right, Daniel Jeremiah, and I didn't make a graphic here, guys. I apologize. Daniel Jeremiah. I'm kind of, not that I'm all in on Daniel Jeremiah, but it's NFL.com, and they got about 3 or 4 guys that put out mock drafts, and I just love to see the trends. And Jeremiah's pretty good at what he does. You can tell he works hard. His biggest risers that he has on his board, one is Omar Cooper, the guy that made that great catch for Indiana in the back of the end zone to beat Penn State. He likens him to a Ram receiver, and he could be a great second day pick if he was at 61, right? I'd dance with that. And then he also talks about the offensive lineman, the tackle from Arizona State, Max Ahinachor, TJ Parker, edge from Clemson. These guys, none of these guys are really first rounders all the time. So some of the mock drafts have them in the first round, but not Omar Cooper. But Ian Shore and TJ Parker, Kenyon Sadiq, have all been kind of like late in the first round, but these guys might be available in the second. I don't think the Rams need to take a tight end that high. Keontae Scott, Miami, has moved up, but he's more of a nickelback. The biggest fallers, which we talked about on Monday, is Colton Hood. And Jeremiah didn't even really specify why Hood fell. He thinks Hood, rookie year, could be a starter in the NFL. Another corner that fell was Brandon Siss out of South Carolina. And dropping in the draft is Chase Basantis, the offensive lineman, the guard from Texas A&M. Just something to think about there. So let's Bobby Riggs versus Billie Jean King. I saw that. I was rooting for Bobby Riggs, but then when I realized the guy was 107 years old, yeah, right? I got no problem saying a girl could beat me in tennis. I got no problem at all. I got no problem that Caitlin Clark can beat me on the court, right? But it's just not going to work in a team sport. We know that, right? And I think where the women's game suffers in all these sports is when they try to get them to play like the men. They are not an above rim sport in basketball. Women's basketball is. It's below the rim. It's fundamentals. It's moving without the ball. It's screen and move. And they just don't. In the WNBA, they're kind of sometimes they drift away from that. So again, let's see. Manny Correa, Joe, watch the American Bowl. Eric Hunter plays in that game. Okay, I'll do my best to watch that one. All right, I'm clicking along here. We are past the 40-minute mark. No, the 30-minute mark. I told you guys I didn't want to go too long today because I am planning on watching the Illinois-Michigan game at 5 o'clock. So there we go. Real quick here, let me drop this in.
It was a stone groove, my man.
Okay, I want to talk about two Ram cornerbacks that were released on this day in 2003. One was former Ram and Hall of Famer Aeneas Williams. Aeneas Williams played 4 years with the Rams, made the Pro Bowl twice. In his second to last year at age 35, he had a scoop and score. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown and a pick six for a touchdown. He moved from corner to free safety his last 2 years. I loved Aeneas Williams. I absolutely loved Aeneas Williams. He was just a great player. And if there was a guy that you wish could have played longer with the Rams, it would have been Aeneas Williams. Now he was released, but he was brought back. But again, that was a guy who just Aeneas Williams just any guy could have had a whole career with the Rams. You wish it was Aeneas Williams. He'd fit in with this culture. And then the other one that I got to do a mea culpa on, I broke down the Rams' 24 corner selections since the common draft era began in 1966. They have drafted 24 of them, and I said 12 of them were hits and 12 of them were misses to kind of prove my point that it's a hit and miss when you draft these guys. We're talking guys that are drafted 20th overall, first round, 40th overall, 65th overall, and so you just don't know. So you better be darn sure if you draft a corner at 13. Well, one of the guys I overlooked and didn't give him his just due was Dexter McClean, who played 6 years for the Rams. He was drafted second round, 40th overall out of Clemson in 97. He picked off 16 passes with the Rams. After the 2003 season, before the 2003 season, he signed with Dick Vermeil and spent his last few years in Kansas City and then Houston. But he was in both Rams Super Bowls in 99 and 2001. And I got to move him into the hit category. In fact, he was such a hit when the Rams drafted him in 2007 out of Clemson. The Rams thought they could repeat that when they drafted Ty Hill in 2006, first round. And of course, that was a major whiff. But wanted to remember and acknowledge Aeneas Williams and Dexter McClean today. Those guys were really good contributors to the Rams secondary. Now, not on the air tomorrow for February 28th, but I do feel there is something to share. USA expat, what do you got there? Avion Terrell seems to be a riser. You know, that was interesting because I had not seen him come back into the first round. Initially, he was. I saw him as high as 13, but then he had dropped to the second round. Keep an eye on him. Manny Correa, favorite Ram DB was Pat Thomas and Monty Jackson. Pat Thomas for me. Pat Thomas was my favorite. I loved him and Rod Perry together, and Monty Jackson, right? But Pat Thomas made it able for the Rams to trade Monty Jackson and such. But let me, and those are in those Klosterman years. So let me share this story. February 28th, 1993, Kevin Green, future Hall of Famer, becomes a free agent, an unrestricted free agent. On April 5th of 93, he signs with the Steelers. And of course, he gets to go to a Super Bowl with them. And we know Kevin Green's career. 8 seasons with the Rams, 119 games, 5 picks, 11 fumble recoveries, and 72.5 sacks, including 4 double-digit seasons and back-to-back years of 88 and 89. He had 16.5 sacks. Then they brought in Jeff Fisher in 91 to be the DC, and he messed with the defense. And I think Kevin Green's sack total dropped to 2, right? But here was the thing. How did the Rams get a guy like Kevin Green? One, high motor guy out of Auburn, right? They got him 113th overall in 1984 out of Auburn with a 5th-round pick they acquired for a wide receiver. On August 1st, 1984, the Rams, we drafted Kevin Green in 85, 113th overall in 85. The Rams, on August 1st, 1984, sent Preston Dennard. Preston Dennard, who wasn't a great receiver in Ram history, but a really solid one, perfect possession guy, really broke out in 79. He was a guy signed late in 78, Don Klosterman special, and he was signed to fill out the roster in 78 at the end of the season. We thought for sure the Rams would bring Dwight Scales back in 79. No, they cut Dwight Scales, kept Preston Dennard, and he caught over 40 passes in that crazy season of 79 that Rams ended up in the Super Bowl. And he was the steady receiver for the next 5 years. First year of John Robinson, Preston Dennard was there. Undrafted free agent, right? Rams got the best out of him and then traded him to the Bills for the 5th-round pick that led to a 4th-round pick that led to Kevin Green, right? And then, of course, as the Rams were in their full fire sale mode, trying to get out of LA and all that evil that was done by she who must not be named, Kevin Green ended up in Pittsburgh. And it's kind of a bummer that he's not solely identified as a Ram in his career. But those days are gone. We're in the golden age of Rams football. All right, let's see. Tim Powers, Ann Myers, the original Caitlin Clark. You know, Mr. Powers, I know you had this affinity for Dave Myers at UCLA. You always liked Dave Myers, so you're going to go to Ann Myers. Ann Myers was a good player, but come on. Ann Myers, you can't say jockstrap. Ann Myers couldn't carry Caitlin Clark's sports bra, right? She was good, right? But she's no Caitlin Clark, right? Sorry, I have to settle that hash there for you. Manny Correa loved Preston Dennard. He also wrote poetry. Manny Correa, remember Pete Holohan. That was the beginning of the end. When they just let Holohan go after 89. They let Greg Bell go. That whole Zambezi run was over. You know, that's when the writing was on the wall, right? And they were 5-11 in 1990, and it was just a decade of doom, right? And we should have saw the writing on the wall there. So wanted to get that one in because that's tomorrow. The anniversary of the Kevin Green departure is tomorrow. On a happier note, in 2003, the Rams on February 28th, the Rams traded Trung Candidate, former number 1 pick, to the Washington Texans, or then Redskins, for a 4th-round pick that they blew. And then here was the other one. 2003, February 2007, February 28th, lost guy in Rams history, wore number 62. He was an unrestricted free agent the Rams signed in February of 1999, locked down the guard spot for the next 8 years, 126 games, starting 124, only missed 2 in 8 seasons with the Rams. He was 6'4", 310 out of South Dakota State, and he made 2 Pro Bowls, played in 2 Super Bowls, and his name was Adam Timmerman. Adam Timmerman. Now, we talk Orlando Pace an awful lot, and I do bring up Fred Miller, how he went from regular season GOAT to against Javon Curse in Tennessee in 99 to basically holding the fort down there at right tackle in the Super Bowl. And we got the best out of Fred Miller, but we're very poor at remembering Adam Timmerman, one of those Dakota kids, and the career he gave the Rams. 8 years, 126 games, starting 124, only missed 2 games in 8 seasons. Boy, Adam Timmerman was really good, and no one, unfortunately, remembers Adam Timmerman, but let's throw that bone out to him every chance we get. Georgia was wicked. Yes, Georgia was wicked. Yeah. I thought I heard the elves in Munchkin Land, or the Munchkins prance around the street singing Ding Dong when she – anyway. Also passing away on February 28th, 2021 was Irv Cross. Irv Cross, NFL Today. People forget that he was a Ram for 3 seasons, 66 through 68. One of the moves George Allen made to get Cross here from Philly and then send him back to Philly in 69 in the deal for Bob Brown, future Hall of Famer at right tackle. In fact, it was Bob Brown's arrival to the Rams to play right tackle in 69 and 70 that allowed the Rams to move Charlie Cowan from right tackle to left tackle, a spot he held from 69 through 19. I think was it 70? Was it 75? I think it was. And so yeah, so Irv Cross, great on NFL Today, passed away at the age of 81 in 2021. And I have to mention it because he was a popular Ram. He intercepted a pass in my favorite game as a Ram as a kid. On February 29th, of course, it's not a leap year this year. February 29th, Al Clark was born. The late Al Clark. He passed away in 2004 at the age of 56, but he was born February 29th, 1948. He played in 46 games with the Rams, 72 through 75. And then he was released by the Rams and then went to Philly for his last year, where he was reunited with Dick Vermeil. So that was kind of a cool end to his career. But he picked off the pass October 14th, 1973. Rams leading the Cowboys 37-31. Staubach's driving. The Cowboys have been slowly creeping back into that Harold Jackson game, and listening to it on radio, Dick Enberg and Al Clark making the interception that sealed the fate. So I will always be an Al Clark fan. So there we go. What do we got it all in? Chris Childers, who do you think was the Rams' best draft pick? Well, if you want to look at that, Chris, there's the McSnead era, or do we want to talk about all time? It's those guys that go wire to wire pretty much, right? He got injured a lot late in his career, but you drafted Orlando Pace and boom, he's there. Don't have to think about it. He's there. Now, you could say Aaron Donald was a great draft pick because he was taken 13th overall, but I don't think we had that expectation of Aaron Donald being there. So, what was the expectation and what did they meet? But, when you draft a guy like Orlando Pace and he actually hits all the marks, right? Eric Dickerson, you draft Eric Dickerson. I was upset they traded Wendell Tyler. I saw Dickerson play in the Pony Express backfield at SMU. Who was in the Pony Express backfield? Dickerson, Craig James, and who was the quarterback, right? You get a bonus point if you can tell me who the quarterback was. And but he hit second overall after Elway, and boom, dude did it, right? Dickerson was great. But when you're talking about like greatest draft pick ever, man, when you see them take a Puka Nacua in the 5th round, right? When you see them make a move like that, that is just unbelievable. I'll even give credit for Aaron Donald because a lot of people viewed him as undersized and they took him at 13, right? Those are special, right? To get Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round, absolutely amazing. Some of these draft picks that you just see what the Rams get. So who's my favorite draft pick of all time? I go back to those Klosterman years where they hit on so many picks and stuff. France, Hera. It's hard to say, but you know what? You remember the bums better than you do the top picks, don't you? Right? You remember the bums, who they were. Let's see. Oh, Manny Correa, Eric Dickerson, or Steven Jackson? You got to go Eric Dickerson. Steven Jackson, as I said, is the William Shakespeare version of the Rams because he played in the darkest period of its modern history. And that guy was a warrior, man. I love Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson, if he had gone any place else, would be in the conversation as one of the top 5 running backs of all time. I firmly believe that. That guy was off the charts, right? USA X-Pac, Jackie Slater gave us 19 years. And I think he was only, a third-round pick? Was he a third-round pick, fourth-round pick? So out of Jackson State, right, in 76. And he replaced John Williams for good in 79 and held down the spot forever. So, yeah, there's another great pick. So it's hard to gauge it because there's a lot of great picks there. But again, it's also I find myself, I hate to think of it, trending towards the negative, right? If the Rams are in the Super Bowl next year and DeJuan Johnson, who was Mr. Irrelevant in 2023, 7th round, 259th overall, if DeJuan Johnson is on the field and he makes the tackle that wraps up the win in Super Bowl 61, he's going to be the greatest Ram draft pick ever. I've honked for Travin Howard, who really had his career kind of derailed by some injuries. But Travin Howard, right? 7th round, 231. Remember Travin Howard? Aaron Donald gets his hands on Jimmy G in the NFC Championship game, and it's Travin Howard that gets the pick that ends that 49er run. Oh, okay. No, Manny Correa. Lance McElhaney. Lance McElhaney was the quarterback during the Pony Express years. The last year, 82, Lance McElhaney. Sorry, no points this round. ESG, what did you think of Adam Archuleta? I thought Adam Archuleta was really good. I was sorry to see him go. But then when after one season, when the Redskins put him in the street, and that was the end, I'm glad the Rams didn't give him that contract because for a year there, Adam Archuleta was the highest paid safety, I think, in NFL history. Just another sign of what was going on there in Washington, right? And I think that was before the Sean Taylor situation. So they were still looking for a safety at that point. So it wasn't after. I don't think it was. But I liked Archuleta. But I'm going to hold my guns there, Manny, on Lance McElhaney being the quarterback in 82. There you go. All right, guys, we got 2 minutes left here. I'm happy to reboot what we talked about. Did you see Mekhi Lemon's body language when he was at the podium at the combine? He answered the question great. He loves, he's very much into Amon-Ra St. Brown, but his body language and his demeanor was just a little spooky. The salary cap's at 301 rocks. That's good. And I bring up again, Anthony Richardson stuff broke on Tuesday that the Colts were allowing him to seek a trade. If you remember, we were right here, all of us, talking about Anthony Richardson being a possibility on Monday as the reclamation project quarterback the Rams may want to dip into between him or maybe a Will Levis if it doesn't cost too much money. Rams have interviewed Josiah Trotter, linebacker, Missouri, 6'2", 237. He's trending late second round. Reuben Bain, who was a first day, possibly top 10 pick, who everyone's saying arms are too short. They interviewed him. Mansour Delane, generally considered the top-rated cornerback in the draft out of LSU. Brennan Thompson, Mississippi State, 5'9", 170 blur. He projects as a fourth-round guy right now. Blazing speed, but he only returned one punt, and I think we'd like to get something more out of something like that. And then, of course, they did speak to Mekhi Lemon. And then, as I shared, Lorenzo Styles, safety for the Ohio State Buckeyes. His brother, as an off-ball linebacker, ran a 4.4 40 yesterday. Lorenzo ran a 4.2 as effortless as I've ever seen one. And so, again, these guys are football players. I just thought it was also interesting that Toledo's Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who has been creeping into the first round, even projected to the Rams, He ran a 4.5, and I'm wondering if that's something like a lot of teams thinking, hey, we like this guy. I'm glad he ran a poor time, because some people are going to look at that 4.5 and say, oh, well, it's not a 4.4, right? And move off of him. Manny Correa, what did you say? You're correct. There you go. Thank you, Manny. I appreciate it. Everyone, no problem. I'm here all week. I got it right. Okay, guys, we're at the 50-minute mark. I'm going to go watch Michigan and Illinois. Now, next week, I'm at spring training in Arizona, Cactus League. So from my VBO or whatever it is, the rental that the sponsors are taking me to, the guys from Joint Sports Ball, they've invited me out there. And so I'll be on my laptop. Probably won't be doing it through Restream. I'll probably just be doing it straight through YouTube. I'll do my best to get on. The hours are going to be weird. It's going to be a different environment and probably not as long. But I will be posting on the post app here that you got for YouTube. I posted all week. I posted my column FanView all week. I'd appreciate you guys checking that out as well. And we'll go from there. All right. Lance was the quarterback. Thank you, Manny Correa. All right. I do my homework. There you go. I'm going to leave you guys with some proud heritage, and we'll see you guys at some point, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there. But let's just keep in touch. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on. I do appreciate everything and being with you. But it is hot here in LA.